up being the college football is already the NFL's free version of minor league sports. I mean, they get ready, they come out, they're ready to go. Baseball, of course, it seems like you can go through years and years in the minors and not make it. If they end up, and I've had a lot of people ask about this, how soon do you think the NCAA will separate? I mean, the big dogs will separate from the NCAA. Is that sooner rather than later? If I was to ask you guys about a timeline, would it be 3 to 5 years or would it be 8 to 10 years? If it even happens at all.
I don't know, sometime in the 5-year range. Gene Smith was just talking about it today. He's just talking about it some more today. He was saying that you don't really do anything to affect the Olympic sports, but that in football in particular, from what I was able to gloss over, I didn't get a chance to like sit down and read every word that he said, but the basic gist of it is that it's just not feasible to keep doing things the way they're doing it right now, and that in his opinion, in the sooner rather than later future, college football in particular is going to have to change its framework, and it sounds like he would be preferential to everybody else pretty much, other sports staying the same, but he wants some changes in football, and he wants the basketball tournament would stay the same. I don't think anybody really wants to touch that, but he pointed out that you've got 352 schools that are all trying to make the same things work, and in reality there's maybe 100-plus schools that are actually able to do most of the things they're even talking about, and then 200 other schools, 220 other schools that are basically just there and still have not the exact, now with the power conferences, they don't have the exact same ammunition in their words as some of the others, but they still are there and they're in the conversation, and they all want different things. Like, Alabama and Texas and Baylor and Oklahoma and all the presidents of those schools don't have a lot in common with like 2/3 of the schools that are out there that they're basically on the same playing field with. So I think that separation between the haves, if you will, those that can actually go out and do NIL stuff and want to be at the top level, and then pretty much 2/3 of the rest of the schools that clearly don't have the ability to do all that. I think that's where you could see the separation, and where I think you see some college officials rooting for a separation, like a Gene Smith pointed out today.
Okay, here's the deal. That's basketball. There are 350 or whatever.
No, that's football.
Football, there's 115.
Okay, well, I see what you're saying, yeah.
And let's be really honest here. If college football's FCS separates into another hierarchy outside of the 115, there are a lot of schools in the Big 12 that have been sweating bullets, including Baylor and Oklahoma State and Texas Tech and everybody else in between. And you wonder then, if they make those decisions, would that also include if basketball is separate, like, for example, Kansas, Baylor, Texas Tech, great basketball programs. Baylor's obviously had their success in football. But I've heard numbers. I've even had a couple of people at administration level, not Baylor, have said it may not get above 25. If they go down in 25 to 40 schools in the FBS and they end up separating from the rest of FBS, do you think that how many in the Big 12 make that cut?
Well, I mean, it would be.
It's not about how good you are.
No, it's about, because if that was the case, then half the schools that would be making that cut would not make it. So if it was just about how good you are, then Vanderbilt, like the SEC, would be like, thanks for all the victories, but
there's 60-something teams, right? 60-something teams, Power 5. So even if you took the 60-something Power 5 and Notre Dame, and maybe now that Brigham Young should be a part of a Power 5, that's okay. You ever thought about what will they do if they even cut down from the 66 to 68 in the Power 5s?
Why would that be fun, or why would anybody enjoy that?
Yeah.
You would have so many rematches. You'd have you'd be playing people twice a year because you only have 20-something. Like, that wouldn't make any sense. I mean, I know that's like the doomsday worst case scenario, but they'd have to. That's not even as many teams are in the NFL. Like, I mean, that would make no sense to whittle it down to less than 30 schools, because that's basically just the Big Ten and the SEC. And you can say all you want to about the money they have and all that, but some of the interest in the crossover is like, oh, I need to watch Michigan because I need to know if they're going to lose when my team gets into a bowl game. If all of a sudden my team doesn't even have a chance at this bowl game, like, what would that would not grow the audience, in my opinion. That would shrink it, and I'm sure they still have the big fan bases, the Ohio States, the Michigans, the UTs, all that, to be able to, get large audiences. But let's not act like Baylor Ole Miss didn't draw one of the best bowl numbers, despite the fact there was no title on the line. You could say that, it was the Sugar Bowl. No, I think it was interesting. Baylor Ole Miss being an interesting game. Like, why would we want to toss those things to the side? All for the sake of money? Well, I guess that makes sense because that's what we do for every single thing. But, like, how is that appealing to people at the 28-team league where it's just basically NFL light?
It would be the ultimate, absolute college
stupid
football version of Civil War. Not trying to compare it to that.
It sounds,
because let me tell you something. There are some schools that you're looking at 60, what is it, 65 or so, plus two or three others. I'm telling you, if you cut it down, there are some dudes, alpha dog programs that are just not going to happen.
Well,
but it is at least floated out there, and it is the doomsday issue.
Let's see.
It is about money.
Let's see if college football can learn from another terrible idea that I promise there'll be at least a rump out of Jack. The European Super League.
Yeah.
That was a terrible idea that none of the if you had asked any of the fans, hey, do you want this European Super League? And they'd be like, well, would we just play that in non-World Cup years? And no, that's what we're going to be now. You're never going to play the team that you like beating again for the rest of your life. You're going to play a team in another country that you only play in friendlies on TV once every 10 years. And they all hated it.
The only way that would make sense to do that, and I still don't think it just is very smart. I mean, I think it sounds like a cool idea in principle, but you really flesh it out. I think it's an awful idea to limit it to just that many type teams. Then you'd have to, in my opinion, have some sort of relegation where at least, a Texas Tech or a Baylor or a Virginia or whoever is able to find themselves up there, because otherwise, what's the point? These schools aren't going to pay a bunch of money to be D2. Just what's the point?
No.
So, if you want to just kill college football off basically entirely and make it an elite of the elite, kind of like everything else in this country, then sure. But I don't see the appeal, even if those are the biggest fan bases. I don't think that sounds very fun. And maybe I'm in a minority, but hey, my team would be in it. So, I'm not even coming at it from a standpoint of begrudgingly, my team would be left out. So, no, my team would be in it. So I'd have them to root for, and I still don't like the idea. I don't really like them even joining the SEC, much less them being in an SEC league.
If you talk about 30, no, I agree. But if you even talk about 30, the SEC has 14.
That's what I'm saying. It doesn't make sense.
They're not going to kill their own.
You'd have the Big Ten and the SEC, and then everybody else is just whatever.
Speaking of teams that cannot keep up,